Good evening, everyone. I'm going to bring our local Board of Appeals and Equalization meeting back to order and reconvene from our meeting from May 4th.
I would like to make a motion to add three more items to tonight's agenda under 3.0. It's for Jeff Forshner at 425 189th Avenue, Bud Flagstead at 3200 229th Avenue, and Lorraine Galloway to appeal 3163 203rd Avenue.
I'll second that motion.
Councilmember Plaisance made the motion and Councilmember Harrington second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Sweeney, could you take roll call, please?
Councilmember Plaisance.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Ronning.
Aye.
And Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
That motion passes. So we're going to, where we left off last week was with the appeal of Mr. Lonnie Eklund. And we'll start with that. Is Mr. Eklund here tonight?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Good evening. If you could state your name and address for the record again, please.
Lonnie Eklund. Address is 49480 Zero Avenue West, Stansfield, Minnesota, 55080. And I own land on Kool-Aid.
Okay, thank you. So where we left this last week was, I think we had a fairly thorough discussion, and I think we have an understanding, but we asked for more, council asked for more information. And so with that, if there's any council members that want to discuss anything specific with additional information that was provided in our packet, now is the time. Okay, so Ken, was there any further review of this property and this appeal on your part? Ken, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I went out and physically viewed the property to take a look at it, and you know, it's property. It's not from what I could tell underwater. I think it's usable property. I think I looked at the attachments that the city had provided. I don't believe it's within the floodplain at all, so it's high enough to meet that criteria. I don't have anything more to add to it, Mr. Mayor.
So, Ken, are the two adjoining properties to the east, are those considered as lakeshore property?
At this point, they are.
What makes those lakeshore property?
Well, historically, they've been, this property here, the one, I believe it's 18740. This property was part of that over the years. So, I think it was since 2013 when the property was acquired from the city. So nothing has changed since that time. It's considered lakeshore property. This just came to light the end of this past year, the acquisition of this property by Mr. Eklund. So, you know, I'm still still in the process of trying to figure out what to do with it.
So maybe you misunderstood me. The property to the east, which has the home on it, that's not part of this appeal, but the adjacent property, is that lakeshore property?
It is, yes. It's considered lakeshore property. It's valued as lakeshore property, but with the lack of this property here going forward, technically, no, it wouldn't be lakeshore property. This is- Okay.
So thoughts by anyone?
Mr. Mayor, the property to the north of 18734, which is owned by David and Georgianne Meyer, they own also the lot to the north of that, so they actually do have lake frontage, but it's on that canal rather than the body of the lake itself.
Okay. So any thoughts on the appeal from council members? We had discussion last time.
I'll just speak up here. You know, it seems to me that we should almost be looking at this as property that would be anywhere else in the city that may be considered landlocked. Now, I don't think we can necessarily consider this landlocked simply because it does have access to the water, which means that you could go to your property by boat, which means that, you know, if you kind of considered it as an island situation, then this property is still would be worth something. So while I'm looking at the difference, and while you know, Mr. Eklund has definitely explained that it's a rather large percentage, I don't think that we can really look at the percentage. I think we have to look at the property as to what the value is if you were to sell it. So my question is do we have any other properties in the city that are about the same acreage, and what comparables that would be?
Randy, I did a survey of the property around the lake and found nothing comparable to this property in terms of its access and the unique situation it is because it is only accessible by water.
Well, I think there may not be any lots around the lake that are like this that are on lakeshore, but there are quite a few lots, I'd say similar in nature to this around the lake that on East Front Boulevard, for example, there's across from the road, across from the lake, there's a lot of very small properties that are about this size. You know, they're just a few thousand square feet, and they're not buildable for homes. Well, you know, some use them for septic areas, some use them for, you know, garages and things like that, but no one uses them for homes. They're too small. So the value there, even though they're attached to these lakeshore properties, the value isn't in, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. They're more like what this property was at 1,600. And those properties are accessible. You know, I understand Randy's point that you can argue there is accessibility or not landlocked, but you can't get to the properties, and you certainly can't build on them. They're not buildable. So to what value? To what value is it to that particular landowner? I mean, it's obvious if you know, looking at the aerials, these properties are used by those adjacent homeowners. I mean, they've got what I assume are their own docks and their own small buildings on them. So somebody's using the land. It's just not apparent that it's the current landowner.
Mr. Mayor, this is Diana. I'm looking at a brand new aerial photo that was just flown by pictometry. It looks like there's a building on this parcel. Is that still there?
That's what I see in Google Earth right now from 2018.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's a boathouse or a
I'm
shed, but
seeing
it's
it
right
April
on
of
the shore.
2020, and we don't have that building on the record. Just letting you know.
That's a dock.
No,
There's a
there's
building
and
there.
building.
Yeah. Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, my question is kind of for Jack. With this property, is there any way our building inspectors, building department would consider a permit to do anything?
No, from a zoning perspective, this lot is unbuildable.
So you couldn't get a permit to build a doghouse?
No, you can't build an accessory structure unless there's a primary structure, and there's no way it can meet setback requirements, shoreland overlay setbacks, the requirements for a individual sewage treatment system, and it's not accessed by a public street.
So as far as value goes, it's almost worthless dirt.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but it's from a building standpoint, it has no value from that aspect.
It has no real purpose.
The purpose is it could be used for recreational opportunities by the owner, or the other value would lie in if it was sold to the adjacent property.
Suzanne, you had your hand up? Question?
Yeah, my comment is that I think that increase is totally not warranted, because I think it should be closer to what he paid for it. And should he sell it for $20,000, well then, yeah, you can tax it based on what he sells it for, but it's not on what the minimal purchase he made it. And when he does sell it, he's going to have taxes on the money he gets for that too. So I think this is not a good, legitimate increase. And I was going to say something else and it went out of my head. So I just think if you're going to increase taxes, it should be based on a percentage of the price from last year to this year, not on a total whole revaluation of a property, especially when the homeowner doesn't agree on that revaluation. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if those adjacent property owners also own these parcels, then I'd absolutely agree with the assessment. But because there's no reasonable way to use these little slivers of land, so as Jack said, you can't build on it. Technically, you can't put anything on it. So I don't know how we can really say that it's worth $26,000.
One of the primary things determining the value of this thing is, what is it? Centerville, Center City or something? There's properties over there that this is being compared to. And I should probably know something about those, but I don't. But if they're saleable, if you're going to tax somebody as a market value, taxable market value, $26,000, you have to have some means of selling it for more than $5,000, $10,000. And without seeing it, I guess I'd have to, just what we saw from the map last week, it it's not buildable. He couldn't sell it unless somebody wanted to pay cheap minimum. The Center City, Centerville, if I recall the conversation, they have access to blacktop roads. This doesn't have access to any road. It's within that community. It seems it would be within city limits. You know, as far as your downtowns, your conveniences, your freeway, et cetera, et cetera. All of that's lacking in this place.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on this appeal item? Randy?
Yeah, I kind of want to clarify for the record that our responsibility here is not to define the taxable market value, but the estimated market value. And that's all that we can control here at City Council. So the problem that we're having is finding a comparable to actually come up with what the value is for this property. I mean, we've seen a couple of values. Unfortunately, I think the Centerville is too far away. If you were to compare just a regular piece of property about the same size, we could definitely compare it to that. But I don't see that we really have a value that is going to be comparable to what we need here. So we're kind of left with kind of coming up with a number a little bit out of our hat, which is somewhere between what was from last year, which was 1,600, to what is currently now, which is 2,600. So regardless, we still have to come up with a number.
Well,
I'm wondering where we need to be.
I'm not so sure we need to. I mean, if there was a value attached to the property last year, I mean, what has changed? Right? There's nothing really changed since last year, other than there's a different owner. So to me, there is a basis where to start, as a base, and then if there's adjustments on all other lake property, I can understand that. You adjust it that way. But the value where these properties were valued at something by the county at some point.
So what you're saying then is that we should keep it at the same valuation that it was last year, even though we've seen every single property increase its estimated market value from the previous year. I find that a little hard to swallow because, granted, while this property may not have a high response from people wanting to purchase this property, it still is a piece of property that if you put it up for sale, that it may get some bites, for people that would want to buy it. And that's what we're trying to define here today.
No, I agree. I wasn't clear enough. I meant last year's valuation adjusted for what all the lake properties are being adjusted this year. So if it was 10%, whatever that percentage was. So no, that value does need to go up, but only by what the kind of the blanket change was on the other lakeshore properties. That's my suggestion.
Well, here's a
so then from that,
Randy?
So from that standpoint, do we want to ask Ken what the average was for increasing the estimated market value for the city and take that percentage and add it to what the value was from last year? Or are you talking about something different? Thank you.
No, that's exactly what I'm suggesting. So Ken, what was that? You last time you had a number.
The increase for Lakeshore was 20%, Mayor.
Okay. So my suggestion is last year's value plus 20%. Lonnie, did you have a question? Something you wanted to add?
I just,
Yeah,
wanted
it was,
to know in
I-
2017, the value of the lot that I had bought, two lots together was only $100.
Lonnie, can you say that again? You didn't come over too clear.
In 2017, the value of the lot that I had before I got the two lots was only $100. So we've gone from $100 to $1,600 to $26,000.
Okay,
Whether that makes any difference, that was the year before, the 1,600 was $100.
understood. Tom?
yes, there's, must be other unbuildable lots on the lake. If there are such, use them for comparisons if it's at all reasonable. How much did those go up? How many percent did those increase and compare it to what this increase is?
What, Tom, I think what Jack said is he looked around the lake and couldn't find any lakeshore properties that were landlocked. There's lakeshore properties that aren't built on,
What?
but difference here, these are landlocked. They're not really accessible except from the water.
I'm thinking of more of the lines of unbuildable. There are lots out there that are unbuildable, I'm assuming. And what was the value increase for those as a comparison?
Ken, do you have any thought on that?
All lakeshore property in the city that was in the lakeshore zone, that would be property fronting the water, had a 20% increase to the rate this year.
So it doesn't matter whether it was buildable or not?
That's correct.
Okay. So is there any other discussion on this?
Yes, if I may. So if you consider that 20% from $1,600, I'm coming up with $320. If you add that on, then we're talking about $1,920 for a valuation. Do you find that satisfactory, or should we reconsider? Thank you.
That's where I'm heading with that.
Can somebody tell me where that, how they determined 20% was on every building was a reasonable number?
Ken?
The 20% was on land only. It was not, that did not affect the building value. It was just land only. And that's based on the change in sales from last year to this year.
But how did they determine a 20% increase was reasonable? That just seems excessive in my mind.
It was necessary to meet the Department of Revenue guidelines for the sales ratio for the lakeshore zone.
Okay. Anything else? Jack, this is the first one that may be contrary to what the assessor's recommendation is. Are we going to handle all this at the end of the meeting with one motion?
It would probably be better to handle them individually so they don't get too confused.
All right. Okay. Then I will make a motion on, and Ken, please correct me if I'm wrong, parcel ID 35-33-23-12-0080.
Is this the Eklund property?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and the motion is to uphold the appeal with an adjustment of 20% to last year's total market value of $1,600.
Second.
That would bring bring that to 1,920.
Second,
Before we continue, could we might mute some microphones? There we go. Is there a second to that motion?
yes, second,
Is that you, Tom?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion made second. Any discussion?
Can I interject for a second? I think you said 1,920, is that correct?
Yes.
It needs to be rounded to the nearest hundred statutorily.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to amend my motion to correct that number to 1,900. Is there a second to the motion to amend?
Second,
Motion made and second. Any discussion to the motion to amend? Okay, Mr. Sweeney, on the motion to amend, could you take roll call vote, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
aye.
and Councilmember Urkel.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, ayes have it. The motion to amend passes. Now back to the original motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Sweeney, take the vote, please, to the roll call.
Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Mr. Eklund, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, second. Jack, assist me. Next on the agenda. DLK storage.
I'm sorry, Steve, it's the Kevin Lewis petition. It's the one at 166 Colleen Street.
I didn't think we had any further information request on that, was there?
We did not make a decision on his request on the appeal at the last meeting.
Do we want to deal with each appeal separately that came in, or the spreadsheet?
Oh, the spreadsheet will be considered as one item. But
Okay.
Kevin's was on the spreadsheet, but he did not reach a resolution with Mr. Tolzman. He appeared and requested that his assessment be dropped. I think Mr. Tolzman's opinion on that was that he did not recommend readjustment on it.
Okay, then we'll revisit the appeal of Kevin Lewis at 166 Colleen Street. Is there a motion on this appeal?
I'll make a motion.
And what's your motion, Suzanne?
Oh,
So-
I would make a motion to adjust it.
And how would you like it adjusted?
Well, I think a 60,000 increase in the values is a lot. So I don't exactly know what to say as far as what I recommend for adjusting it to about 400,000 instead of 444,000.
So your motion is to adjust the value to 400,000?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second,
Tom seconds that motion. Discussion.
yes, please. What was at the 20% value increase? What was his previous value, and what would 20% do to that? Anybody know the answer?
And his increase wasn't 20%, was it?
His value was 2 years ago was, excuse me, 419.8. Then his value went down to, I think it was around 386,000. And then this year went to 440, 405. So over the last 3 years, his value has changed by about $20,000.
Or 5%.
Approximately.
But the, I understand it went down from 18 to 19, but 19 to 20, everyone's went up 20% roughly, right?
Correct. The land did.
The land did. Okay, that's right.
This went up in smaller increments in all the previous years, like 5 to 7,000, like 350,000, 357,000, 366. Then it jumps to 419. Then it goes back down to 384. Then it goes up to 444. So those are the last couple of years. It's been super high increases in my mind. So because I even think going from 366 to 419 is crazy high. 366 to 384 isn't bad, and I would say 384 to 400,000 is reasonable.
What are the
No,
considerations?
sorry, let me finish 1 second. And note, these are totals. It's not, I'm looking at the total with the land and the house values on here. So just so everybody knows.
How do you determine the land value on a house like that? And what does 20% do to the land value? Separate.
If, so let's say the land was $150,000, the land value would go up by 30,000, so it'd become 180.
Is that typical for a lot like that?
It's typical. It depends on the lake. It depends on how much lakeshore. There's many different neighborhoods around the lake. Each one has a rate, but they're all governed by the sales that take place on the lake. So, you know, when I monitor the sales every year, that's what drives what the final value is going to be on these properties.
Tim.
I got a question for Jack. Jack, that looks like it's a bigger lot than most lots on Colleen Street. How big is that lot?
Hang on, I'll check it and see. Tim, that lot is 72 hundredths of an acre, little less than 3/4 of an acre.
Okay, thanks.
Can you guesstimate what the land, like lakeshore is on that, Jack?
Excuse me, Tom? What was your question, Tom?
Tom?
What's the length of the lakeshore?
It's approximately 100 feet. I'll measure it and let you know here in just a moment. Tom, it's approximately 120 feet.
And that's a pretty good sized lot on Boone Lake.
It's a little bit bigger. You know, my concern with this suggested change is that the motion's only is based upon that it doesn't seem reasonable that the increase on the land value is fair on this. There's probably a couple thousand other properties along this lake that had the same adjustment in land value, correct, Ken? It is applied to all properties.
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm concerned about calling out one particular land property and saying it doesn't sound right. That'd be my concern on this. Randy?
I'm kind of in a similar boat with you, Steve. I mean, we're talking a 6,000 increase, and granted, that's not a small number. However, when you compare the percentage here, we're talking about 16%. So we're not even talking the full 20% of what the average is across the lake. And you're talking about bringing this down to $16,000 increase. I got to tell you, my property alone went up almost $40,000 this year. Have anything close to that? So if you decide to give this particular property a break, what that really means is that you're increasing the taxes on the rest of East Bethel in order to make up for the shortfall that would happen because we're making a deal on this property. Well, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to make sure that we're being fair, but in this case, I don't think that we are being unreasonable with the number that has come up for the increase for this year. Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, one of the things we're dealing with here that's a little extraordinary is the value of the land is separate from the value of the house for the taxable market value. And whatever we do, we have to have some reasoning. We can't just pull a number out of our hat or something. We have to be able to explain it. Otherwise, what do you do next time? So there has to be some way. We have to be able to, I believe we have to be able to figure out what was the what was the land value, 20% of that, and what was how do you deal with the house as far as the value? Does that make any sense?
Well, Tom, as we talked about, and as Kenneth said, there was an adjustment to all the lake properties. Yeah. We just went through this with Eklund's. I mean, it's the land value that had an adjustment. There's other adjustments to these properties that haven't, but this is one that happened to all the lakeshore properties. So my point is, we'd be just handpicking one property, say, oh, this property does, it's not worthy of having the 20% or whatever the increase is that everyone else is having. And to Randy's point, then that is shared by everyone, including the other lakeshore properties.
Once again, whatever happens here, we have to have some explanation. We did X, Y, Z because some factor.
Okay.
Can't be arbitrary or capricious. Tim, how much did yours go up, Mr. Harrington? And say Anderson, Lake Anderson, how much did that go up?
I haven't looked at the statement. It doesn't matter to me. I know it went up, but I don't know how much.
Well, the point would be, did yours go up 20%?
I don't know. But I'd have to look at it more closely.
The adjustment was only to the Coon Lake properties, correct, Ken?
No, this was all the lakeshore. This affected lakeshore in the city. So that would all the different lakes in the city that have the lakeshore zone. So,
and that includes Rice Lake, Anderson, Deer Lake.
Ken, does it matter what type of lake it was? You're on mute, Ken.
The rates, yeah, there's different rates for different lakes, but that particular rate would be adjusted by the 20%. So if the rate for that lake was $50 a foot, versus $150 a foot for Coon Lake, it's still adjusted by the 20%.
Okay. Thank you. So is there any further discussion? Okay, to the motion, Mr. Sweeney, could you take roll call vote, please?
Mayor Voss,
No.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Nay.
Councilmember Harrington,
No.
Councilmember Ronning,
Without more explanation and reasoning, I have to say no.
and Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
The motion fails 1-4. Anyone want to present another motion? I'll move that for pin 25-33-23-44-0041, that the city assessor's assessment on that property is upheld.
Second.
Motion was seconded by Tim.
Yes.
Discussion. Hearing none, Mr. Sweeney, could you take roll call vote, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Nay.
That motion passes 4-1. Okay, Jack, on to our additional agenda items.
Mr. Mayor, the representatives from DLK Storage and Jeff Borstner have not shown up, so we'll go to Bud Flagstead, 3200 229th Avenue, PIN number 03-33-23-11-007. This time, Mr. Flagstead will come and present his appeal.
Good evening, Bud. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My real name?
Preferably.
Karsten Flagstead, 3200 229th Avenue, Northeast.
All right. Thanks, Bud.
Yeah. Well, I should have came last year, I guess. But I saw that my evaluation taxable value was going to go up, and I figured, well, you're going to do that to everybody, the mill rate's going to go down, right? I was wrong again. So anyway, you have the handout that I sent to Jack.
Yes, we do.
As you can see, I'm not complaining about the 2020 taxes here. It's going to keep going up and up and up. And as you can see, it went up 29% on my taxable value. And taxes went up 20%. My neighbors only went up 6%. And let's see, my homestead went down 39%. Now we're talking about 2020. Now for next year, we're into it again for 6% taxable value. And homestead, of course, down another 1,484, which is 50%. Now I understand the state money away from most people to have all these expensive homes, right? So anyway, I asked Kim, talked to him 2 or 3 times, and I asked him what the 19,200 movements were, and I didn't get a good explanation of that because I haven't done anything but put a new roof on it after storm damage. Now, I'm fine if I can leave my taxable value where it's at. Not increase it another 18,000 next year. But, I mean, when's it gonna stop? I mean, I can't afford this at 80 years old. I got a fixed income. Social Security just doesn't, pay me enough to keep the tax. No, I'm just looking for same thing that my neighbor gets 6% a year would be great. But I think I got thinking a little bit last year. This year, whatever you want to call it, at 29% taxable value increase. And then next year's only 6%, big deal. But after that big hit from this year, it doesn't seem right. And 50% of my homestead's gone away. I thought that was only supposed to be about 9% a year decrease. And you can see that it decreased, what are my glasses? It decreased 29% last year. And it decreased another, it's going to decrease another 17% in 2021. So, and I don't know where the 19,200 improvements came in. So, if Ken's got an explanation, I'm glad we listened again. He doesn't really have real explanation.
Okay, well, yeah, let's focus on that first. So Bud, you didn't do any new construction.
No.
You didn't pull any permits the last couple of years.
Nope, just for the roof.
Just the roof. Okay. Ken, do you have any understanding of what that $19,000 new construction was? Ken, you're on mute.
This is for last year's value. This was for the, when I was out and viewed the property in 2018, he was part of the quintile for that year. The property was reevaluated at that point. Part of the increase in the value was shown as new improvements. It wasn't because he did anything. It's just a policy with the county that if the improvements exceed roughly about 5%, we show them as a new improvement. So again, this was for tax. This is for last year's value. It's not for where we're at for here and tonight. But it's that's what the 19,000.
Right. Diana, do you have any thought on that?
Our appraisal manual advises them, if all it was done was a roof, there should not be any new improvements added for roofing. If a house is re-sided, new windows put in, things like that, where they're going to change effective age, yes, the value that's attributable to that should be listed as new construction. However, it's sounding to me like he hasn't done any of those improvements.
But you're agreeing.
I think there was an adjustment to effective year built and possibly the grade too. I'd have to go back and check. But
okay, but those should not be listed as new construction unless he actually physically did something to cause that effective age to go up. Are you telling me, Ken, that you just adjusted it according to the schedule in the rate book?
Well, it's just 2 years ago. So typically I put a new improvement in if it's in excess of 5%. That is the instruction I got from Anoka County, so that's what.
I'm from Anoka County, and I'm the one that published the book, and that's not what the book says, but.
That's right.
I mean, I'm happy, for next year. I can't contest last year or 2020. And I'd be happy with just keeping it the same, at least for another year. Because my neighbors didn't go up more than 6%. I went over and talked to him. So have to go up 29%, and my taxes went up 20%. Social Security went up $15 after taxes.
Hey, council, any thoughts? Randy?
I think there's a question about whether or not, from the conversations that I'm hearing, as to why his taxes went up or his valuation went up so high in the previous year. Now we have another increase this year. I think it might behoove us to consider scaling this back, at least a portion of the difference, to kind of make up for that. Now we don't have to, but that would be my recommendation at this point. Thanks.
Diana, if he wanted to appeal that new construction cost from last year, is that doable at all?
I'm just trying to remember, the only way that that's still doable is for him to file a tax court petition. And they extended it because of the whole COVID thing. I need to look up what date they extended it to. It's coming up very
I'm
quickly.
not asking for that 19,200 to be taken away, okay? I'm happy at $308,290. I can live with that for another year, but I don't think mine should go up, 29%.
Well, just so we're clear as a council, that appeal process, Diana, that's with the county. It's not anything that we would do, correct? Or the tax court.
That is not something that council can do right now. The county even cannot unless it goes through the tax court process. Unless there was a clerical error made on the property, then we could do what's called an abatement. It would be something like maybe Ken measured something wrong and made a typing error when he put in the age of the house, something like that, that was purely clerical in nature, we can abate. But otherwise, if it's just a dispute over value and opinion, then it would be a tax court petition.
Even if it is an issue with that 19,000 was, perhaps incorrectly applied, is that into the abatement category?
It could, if Ken thought that he had typed in the effective age wrong that year. If that year is not right, then yes, I could consider that a clerical error.
Okay. You mean, although I agree that effectively that value should come down, I'm a little hesitant on just kind of arbitrarily freezing that value because of what happened the year before. So that doesn't seem quite right.
I'm going to interject for you one more time.
Yes.
The rates and values and the ages on these homes, the rates that were applied would have gone up and been indexed up based on last year's numbers. So not that I want you to base something on what happened last year, but understand that the increase this year, if not for what happened last year, probably would have not increased to the same amount. Am I saying that clearly?
You're saying that effectively it probably wouldn't have been 6% increase. It would have been something lower.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what we went up last year, but it probably was not the kind of percentages that he's talking about. And this year's value it would have gone up, if it went up 5 to 10. I don't know exactly what East Bethel was, but whatever that was, it would have been, if last year's value was incorrect, this year's value would have been lower then.
Well, I'm fine if you leave my evaluation at 308,000 for next year. I'm fine with that evaluation. We don't have to worry about 19,200 that much. I just hate to see it on there anyways, but we don't know what the taxes are going to be next year. So, here again, the homestead dropped way down, and just keep my evaluation at 308,000. I'll be happy.
Tom?
Yeah, I understand what the request is. I guess we'd have to be cautious about freezing something based on a known past
Yeah,
rather than have consideration for unknown future. Any number of things could happen tomorrow, make these values go down, go sky high.
Well, and what, kind of we're all talking about, I mean, the difference between the 308 and the 326 is basically at $19,000 construction ad, right? From last year. Whether that's a coincidence or, I mean, it seems to be what it is.
Can I jump in here?
Yes, Ken.
I believe the $19,200 does not affect the value of the property. It has to be strictly coincidental that the difference be between the taxable market and the estimated market would be that, because even if we took if I took the 19,200 out, it wouldn't change the market value for the property. It's built into the overall value.
It doesn't seem intuitive.
That overall value though, Ken, is based on the fact that you increased an effective age. Hold on, I've got to go back.
So from what I'm looking at, between the 2018, 2019 to 2019 to 2020, the estimated market value increased by $65,000. I know, looking at some other properties, that the valuations actually went down the previous year. So I'm just kind of curious too as to why it increased to this amount. And from what we've heard today, it's because of this valuation of new construction of 19,200. Now I may be mistaken, but I think that has to come into kind of how we're kind of dealing with this particular property today. Thanks.
Any other thoughts? Well, we're stuck at how if there was an appeal, then we basically back down to the 308. Just that's the way the numbers work.
Yeah.
And so, not to pass judgment on whether an appeal at tax court would prevail. A way to avoid both the tax court and to resolve this situation is just to make that adjustment.
Right.
My question is that something we can or should be doing? So that question's to Randy and to Pat.
Well, we're supposed to be going by what the estimated market value is for a home. And so therefore, you know, we're kind of in a little bit of a gray area, but I guess, you know, if we considered that the estimated market value was inflated without cause the previous year, that the estimated market value for this year wouldn't be as high as it is. And I'll leave it to Pat to maybe answer any of the legal questions from there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think you can do that.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Then I will make a motion on pin 03-33-23-11-0007, that recognizing that there appears to have been an adjustment for new construction on the 2019 valuation of 19,000. That we subtract that 19,000 out of the 326,384. And someone has a calculator is going to tell me what that number is. 307,184 as a valuation.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Anyone confirm my math?
We still have to go to straight hundreds, do we not?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Then I'll make the motion. Well, I'll amend that to say 307,000 even.
Second.
Motion made second. Discussion. Okay, hearing none. Mr. Sweeney, could you take roll call vote, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Mayor Voss.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning.
Tom, you're mute.
Sorry, aye.
Councilmember Ronning.
Ronning said aye.
Okay.
And then Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Bud, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, Jack, what's next?
At this time, we'll move to recommendation number 4, and staff recommends that City Council, acting as their Board of Review, approve the change list appeal as presented by Mr. Tolzman at last council meeting and included in your packet tonight, for the resolution of value as adjusted by the city assessor prior to the May 4th and 11th meeting, and to include the Lorraine Galloway appeal within that approval. Mrs. Galloway's address is 3163 203rd Avenue Northeast, 2233-23-11-0003. And Mr. Tolzman recommended reduction in that valuation went from $273,100 to $241,600, for a reduction of $31,500. And we recommend that we approve the entire list as presented by Mr. Tolzman with the addition of the Lorraine Galloway appeal.
Somebody want to make that into a motion?
I will go ahead and make a motion, but just to clarify, we're going to have to read through all these PIN numbers, are we not?
We should.
Okay.
Agreed.
I will make a motion to pass the list of changes that we have for PIN number 22-33-23-11-0007 0003 for Luane Galloway. And pin number 404-33-23-14-0028 for Jessburg. Pin number 36-34-23-33-0024 for Potts. Pin number 02-33-23-23-0005 for Plachowski. Pin number 2934-23-34-0008 for DGR Partners. Pin number 30-34-23-31-0006 for Hutchins. Pin number 07-33-23-21-0002 for Martin. Pin number 17-33-23-23-0022 for Highland. Pin number 18-33-23-24-0001 for Hanson. Pin number 3433-23-41-0007 for Wilson. Pin number 35-33-23-32-0026 for Lindbergh. Pin number 33-33-23-42-0002 for Heaton. Pin number 35-33-22-22-0033 for Bankston. Pin number 35-33-23-21-0006 for Tasca Ward. Pin number 25-33-23-34-0013 for Strickler. Pin number 30-33-22-23-0001 for Orfield's Landing. Pin number 25-33-23-14-0051 for Tischler. Pin number 24-33-23-43-0006 for Bollig. Pin number 24-33-23-42-0003 for Bermel. Pin number 36-33-23-12-0131 for Pemble. Pin number 29-34-23-11-0003 for Bader. And pin number 36-33-23-24-0339 for Steele.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Tim seconds, discussion. Okay, hearing none. Mr. Sweeney, I'm sorry.
I have a question. Should Borschner be added to this list?
Mr. Borsch, Diane, this is Jack. Mr. Borschner did request to appeal his valuation to have it reduced, but he didn't show up. We could add him. It just sustains the value.
Trying to be super, super lenient with, if they called in, we're putting them on the list with everything that's going on in the world today, so that if they want to appeal to county board, they can. So
Okay.
In other cities and other circumstances, we've said if they called in, let's get them on the list. So
maybe then what we should do is address that issue after this motion, since we have not discussed the valuations or the correction.
okay.
All right, I agree. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Sweeney, you could take roll call, please.
Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Tom?
I muted again. Aye.
Councilmember Urkel,
Aye.
The ayes have it, that motion passes. So Diana, when you say we want the Forstners on the list, is it just recognition that they had an appeal, that they wanted to appeal?
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm asking for, just to acknowledge them so they're in the minutes. And then if they chose to appeal to county board, you're protecting their right to appeal.
All right. Then, if I understand right, I'll make a motion to recognize that Jeff Forstner at 425 189th Avenue, pin number 30-33-23-34-0010, and indicated they would like to appeal their valuation, but were not present at either of our two local board of adjustment equalization meetings.
Second.
Motion made in second. Discussion. Hearing none to the motion, Mr. Sweeney, can you take roll call vote, please?
Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
We have, Steve, we have one more to add into that. That's the DLK Storage LLC. They also presented an intent to appeal, but did not attend tonight's meeting.
They weren't on the agenda. Is there a reason why they weren't on the agenda?
They were on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Randy added those at the beginning of the meeting.
I don't
That is
think they don't
correct.
do it.
I added DLK Storage as the addition as part of 3.0. Their valuation was last year for $791,100, and this year it is 1 million. Excuse me, 1,129,300.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion that representatives of DLK Storage intended to, or indicated they would be here tonight to appeal their valuation as well. That PIN number is 173323430007 with the address of 20563 Aberdeen Street Northeast. So make the motion that recognize that they intended or indicated they wanted to appeal, but we're not here tonight.
Second.
Motion made second. Discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Sweeney, could you take roll call vote, please?
Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Aye.
and Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
And that motion passes. Is there any other business in terms of the Board of Equalization?
No, that concludes their business, Steve.
Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Tim makes a
Second.
motion. Motion made in second. Any discussion? Mr. Sweeney, you could take a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Voss, or excuse me, Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Aye.
and Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. The local Board of Equalization meeting for 2020 is here adjourned. Our city council meeting will commence in 3 minutes.
Can I add something, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, we're off the record right now, but yes.
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted to say that if the council or staff have any questions, feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to explain. So thank you for
Okay,
another
thanks, Ken.
year.
Thanks, Diana.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Be safe. We'll see you next year.
Yep.
ordinance 2020-05, summary and adoption. At this time, the council will need to hold a public hearing for consideration of this amendment. Staff recommends the public hearing be opened.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to the city code to allow the insurance of seasonal on-sale liquor license as presented in attachment to ordinance 2020-05, summary and adoption.
Okay, I apologize. I was speaking to the muted computer, so. I opened the public hearing. Mark, is there anyone there?
No, Mayor, nobody's here.
Okay, thank you. I will close the public hearing. I still recognize that motion. Is there a second to the motion?
Second, I'll second.
Discussion. Okay, hearing none. To the motion, Mr. Sweeney, could you take roll call vote, please?
Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Tom, you're on mute.
Sorry, aye. Warning, aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. On the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Sweeney, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Aye.
and Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. There's no new business tonight. On to our department reports. Jack.
Item 7G1, waiver of cemetery headstone policy. City of East Bethel owns, operates, and maintains Oakleaf, Wyatt, and East Bethel cemeteries and provides perpetual care of these grounds in all seasons. City Council approved a policy for cemetery regulations on October 17, 2012. The purpose of these regulations is to provide a uniform set of rules for the use and visitation of the public cemeteries within the City of East Bethel. These regulations are designed to help improve the appearance and reduce the maintenance requirements of cemeteries. The new policy only allows markers or headstones at acidic ground levels. This applies to all grave plots sold after October 3rd, 2012. On November 8th, 2019, a gravesite in Oakleaf Cemetery was sold to David and Brenda Newman for the burial of their son Blake. The cemetery policy was discussed and provided to the Newmans at the time of the sale. Blake Newman, a City of Rogers police officer, was buried in Oakleaf Cemetery on November 11th, 2019. On November 14th, 2019, the city was contacted by Gerhardt Funeral Home. The funeral home was provided with information regarding the limitations on sizes for grave markers for Mr. Newman's grave. Around October the 14th, 2019, David and Brenda Newman called the city and requested approval of the placement of an upright monument on the gravesite. They were referred to the Public Works Manager and were told staff had no authorization to grant waivers from the policy guidelines. During the week of January 20th, 24th, 2020, Mrs. Newman came to City Hall to request a variance to the cemetery policy based on her son's profession. The city administrator spoke with Mrs. Newman and regrettably reaffirmed the city's policy and provided her with steps to request an administrative appeal before the city council. On April 27th, the city received a letter from Mrs. Newman requesting city grant an exception or variance to allow the upright headstone for her son's grave. As Mrs. Newman is not prepared to make the request through the administrative appeal process, the city administrator agreed to bring this matter to the council. Mrs. Newman is seeking council consideration for the allowance of a raised headstone in Oakleaf Cemetery. Mrs. Newman's letter is presented in attachment 1, and the information presented above represent her appeal for the waiver of the cemetery policy relative to this matter. While staff has the utmost sympathy, compassion, and understanding for this waiver, it is recommended the city policy regarding raised headstones remain unchanged and requests for the exception to the policy be declined.
All right, thoughts? Jack, how many how many interments have we had since this policy was in play?
Approximately 100.
Okay. Have we had any variance requests in the past?
We've had some people request it, but we were told when they got the cemetery policy that we didn't allow it, and there was no follow-up to that information.
Okay.
Well, personally, I think raised headstones should be allowed. I've driven by there and there are some, so I don't really understand why they changed it to prevent allowing it where they used to allow it. So I think it shouldn't be a problem.
Jack, what's the reason we go to the flat stones?
It's mainly a maintenance issue. It's much easier to maintain the cemetery and keep it looking better. If the headstones are flat, maintenance can be done in less time. Plus, with the raised headstones too, you have issues of settlement over time. Those get out of line and have to be pulled up and suitable material placed under them to level them. But those are the major considerations that we went to the no upright monuments.
And I do know we've had vandalism in the past.
Correct.
So, and that which has been city cost to fix. So. I mean, I agree with staff's write-up. I mean, we understand the difficult time they're going through, but I mean, this is almost a 10-year policy now we've had, and prior to them purchasing the plot, they were provided information on what can be done there. So I'm not inclined to grant the waiver for this. Any other thoughts?
There are thousands of cemeteries in the United States that have upright headstones. It can't possibly be that hard to maintain. And us being out in the country, it's not possible that we have more vandalism than places like Brooklyn Park or Minneapolis, or I know there's some, but it's not that big of a deal. And I think people should be able to have what they want for their loved ones who have passed away. And this guy was a policeman. He deserves what his family wants him to have, and they already have the headstone. I just think this is micromanaging something that doesn't need to be micromanaged.
Jim?
I have to disagree with Suzanne. I mean, if we allow this variance, how many have we turned down? We're going to open ourselves up for a whole can of worms here if we do one variance for somebody and we've already turned down a bunch of other people. So I'm inclined to stay with what Steve said.
Tom, did you have something to add?
Yes, I did. Jack, who maintains these? Is that the park maintenance people?
That's correct. Our Public Works Department maintains all 3 cemeteries.
I'm sympathetic for the guy, but I don't know how you can make an exception and then go slam the door and go back to the policy. That's good. Thank you.
And I think, because I've had some recent involvements, with cemeteries I've been involved in, that they don't allow above ground stones either. So I mean, I'm sure there's cemeteries out there that still allow them, but I mean the cemeteries seem to have been shying away from this for a while now. and it's the maintenance costs. So Jack, do we need a motion on this?
You can either give a motion or direction, whichever one you want to do. I think it'd be better just to do it in the form of a motion. That way it's official.
Is anyone willing to make a motion on this?
I'll move, direct staff to, send a communication to the parents of this policeman that we have not accepted their plea.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? I will second that motion and discussion. Okay, hearing none. Mr. Sweeney, could you take roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel,
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, Jack, number 2.
Item 7G2, consider a letter of support for the addition of the Coon Lake County Park into the Metro Regional System. The City of East Bethel's had several discussions with their county representatives regarding the addition of the Coon Lake County Park to the Metro Regional Park System. Per Minnesota State Statute 473.147, Subdivision 1, which states that the Metropolitan Council shall plan for the regional park system, the updated 2040 Regional Parks Policy Plan committed the council to convene a region-wide discussion regarding systems additions in 2019 and 2020. As a result, the Met Council requested that implementing agencies provide a response for the system additions. This change has created an opportunity for the county to request an addition to the plan that would allow Coon Lake Park to be classified as a regional park. As a response to the Met Council's directive, the Anoka County Board of Commissioners and the Anoka County Parks Department are recommending that Coon Lake County Park be considered for inclusion in the regional park system. Anoka County will be submitting an application to the Met Council to add Coon Lake County Park to the regional system. If approved, the county will be eligible for additional funding for the park for facility improvements and expansion. Coon Lake County Park meets the requirements for a regional park and should be reclassified as such, as it offers a diversity of naturally occurring nature-based resources, including Anoka County's largest lake, Coon Lake, wetlands, prairie, and woodlands. The park includes an extensive tall grass prairie restoration area, picnic facilities, a boat launch, beach, restroom building, playground, natural surface trails, and a beautiful veterans memorial. The lake is accessible for boating, fishing, swimming, and other water-related activities. The existing park is over 110 acres, which currently meets the minimum standard, but there's potential to expand the park boundary to 150 acres. The park and its facilities provide a regional attraction for the northeast section of Anoka County, as well as nearby Washington, Chisago, and Isani counties. Addition of the park into the regional system can also expand the use of the park as a designated trailhead location for the East Anoka County Regional Trail. Staff recommends that the City Council approve a letter of support to the Anoka County Board of Commissioners for the council to reclassify the Coon Lake Park as an addition to the Metro Regional Park System. The letter of recommendation is attached in the packet.
I'll make a motion for approval of a letter of support for the addition of the Coon Lake County Park into the Metro Regional System.
I'll second.
Motion's made in second. Discussion.
I have something to say. I don't think we should be putting ourselves anymore under Metro anything. we've already found that getting involved with the Met Council has cost us dearly, and I think that we should just try to keep it right under East Bethel. Now, this came out late on Friday, and I tried to get in touch with somebody at the commissioner's office to get their view on why they thought this was a good idea, and I didn't get back. Nobody got back to me, or I didn't get in touch with anybody. So, but that's my feeling on this whole thing. I don't think we should be changing anything. I think we should keep it right here in East Bethel and let us be in charge of it 100%.
Randy.
To be honest, this particular park is not in East Bethel, Suzanne. So in reality, we really don't have a say in this one. It looks to me like Anoka County is just looking for support and recommendation from the city of East Bethel. I understand your concern about Met Council and some of the controls that they've had over the cities, but I think that the Metro Regional Park System in and of itself has done some very good work, and including the Coon Lake Beach Park as part of that system would go quite a long ways in making it a good possibility that we could see some more trailheads or even trails going through our city, which would be a benefit to our residents. So for me, I'm on board with go ahead and supporting the petition. Thanks.
Tom?
I was just going to say or add that that's an Anoka County park. Assumedly, it's Anoka County property, and that I don't know that we have a whole lot of voice or vote in there, and so we might as well support it.
Can I ask why it's even here if it's totally Anoka County and not East Bethel? I'm totally confused on that aspect of this then.
I think the reason why the Anoka County is asking for our letter of support is because it is a regional park, and a lot of our residents use that park, just as residents of other surrounding communities, and so they're looking for support to them on making this a regional park. One thing I'll say about that park and the county and its management is steadily over the last 20 years, they've continued to make improvements at that park to improve accessibility, to improve the boat landing, improve the beach, the Veterans Memorial that went in the last couple of years. So there's a lot of community use and county support of that park. So, and I think to the extent that the communities that's part of that region, I think it's a good thing that we support that. Is there any other discussion? Okay, to the motion, Mr. Sweeney, take roll call vote, please.
Mayor Voss,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning,
Aye.
and Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
That motion passes. Item 3.
Can I interrupt and ask Jack a quick question? On the last vote, I voted aye, but I meant to vote nay. Is there a way to change that? Or am I just stuck with my aye? It was just a habit. I clicked this and said aye just because I was a little late getting to the microphone.
Is that
I
the
think
one for the?
we can recognize that your vote should have been registered as a nay.
Correct.
So four to one.
Can you please clarify which vote you were speaking of? Are you talking about this vote or the previous vote that we took?
I'm talking about the cemetery vote.
Oh, I apologize. Pat, how do we handle that?
I think we're fine. The record should be clear that she basically clarified something from an earlier vote. It would be more of a problem if the meeting were adjourned. So I think we're fine. The record seems to be clear.
Okay, so that vote was 5-0, and the cemetery vote should have been 4-1. Okay, so we'll recognize that in the minutes. Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks for clarifying, Randy.
Thank you.
Item 3.
Item 8G3, Cambia Hills partial escrow release. Cambia Hills of East Bethel LLC is in the final stage of completion of their project at 900 189th Avenue. Developers agreement required them to provide a letter of credit in the amount of $88,060.50 to cover any uncompleted improvements as required for their obligations. In lieu of the letter of credit, the parent company of Cambia Hills, Hills Youth and Family Services, issued a check to the city for $88,060.50 as an escrow deposit due to the nonprofit requirements for an LOC. As this project is substantially complete and the majority of improvements required by the developer's agreement have been satisfied, Cambia Hills is requesting a partial release of these funds. Cambia Hills submitted the request to the city administrator for a partial release of funds on April 30th, 2020. The city engineer reviewed the request and the site and found the request to be in line with the completion status of the project. The letter of recommendation for partial release of funds is exhibit in attachment 1 in your packet. The remaining escrow balance is sufficient to cover those outstanding items to be completed. Staff recommends approval of a 25% reduction of the Cambia Hills of East Bethel escrow fund balance from $88,060.50, $66,045.38, and reimbursement of $22,015.12 to Cambia Hill.
I will make a motion to approve the 25% reduction of Cambia Hills of East Bethel escrow fund balance from $88,060.50 to $66,045.38 and reimbursement of $22,015.12.
I'll second.
You're muted.
We're gonna get this right, Rich.
Yeah.
This reduction is recommended by city engineer and reviewed by city staff.
That's correct.
Okay. So is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Sweeney, could you take roll call vote, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Mayor Voss.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. On the staff report.
We've had a few requests here in the past week about when are we going to reopen our playground equipment and facilities at the parks. In checking around, there are a few cities, I think Ham Lake and Andover have opened their playground facilities. They've posted those facilities with a warning to use at your own risk. We anticipate that the governor is going to have a press conference on Thursday or Friday to address the extension of the shelter in place order and some easement of additional restrictions, either for the businesses and maybe in relation to this. In his original executive order, parks remained open. The option of closing the playground facilities, though, was left to the cities. So we closed our playground facilities at the end of March. And with the request I've had, I'd like some direction or discussion as to how we want to approach in reopening the playground portions of our parks.
And I'll add that Blaine opened their parks too, I noticed.
Several cities have.
I don't know if I agree with posting signs used at your own risk. I think maybe a better signage would be to inform them that the city does not clean the playground equipment. If we want some liability coverage, but that's should be common knowledge anyway that we don't clean the equipment. Otherwise, I'm fine with opening the playground equipment with signs saying that we do not clean the equipment. Other thoughts?
Would it be possible maybe put a sign up there too, maybe practicing some social distancing while you're at the park?
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah, I would agree. So staff closed the parks, right?
That's correct.
So
correct.
we don't really need a council action on this then, right?
Correct.
Anyone object to the playgrounds being open? Okay, we take a small step back, forward, however you want to look at it. Okay. Anything else, Jack?
Yes, I want to remind everybody that the next city council meeting is on Wednesday, May the 27th. That last Monday is Memorial Day, so make sure you keep that on your calendars. It'll be on Wednesday, May 27th, 2020.
Good.
That's all I have.
All right, council reports. Suzanne.
Well, I'm glad we're opening playgrounds. That makes me very happy. On the next meeting, I am wondering if the governor doesn't open the city, if we could do what many other cities in the states have done and declare it a business-friendly city and allow businesses to open safely, maybe present some kind of a plan, because there's at least 5 cities from Lakeville to Princeton, others that have done exactly that. And I think it would be beneficial if we consider it, providing the governor does not open it by May 27th, because some people are saying that he might extend this all the way through July. That's the rumors that I'm hearing, and that's not going to be good. So, and it would just be a voluntary thing. But I'd like you guys to think about it and see what you think. That's all I have.
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that the cities didn't close any businesses. That was a state action. Whether we agree with it or not, I mean, we can have a letter, something of support, but we didn't close any businesses.
And Steve,
our city isn't enforcing anything.
Suzanne, I'm sorry, go ahead,
Steve,
Suzanne.
could I add too that Anoka County's count is still going up? The COVID-19 and that's something, once you start opening things up, I think that count's going to jump, and I don't know what's going to happen, but that's something we're going to have to watch.
And the only real actions we did was close down our city functions and our use of our city buildings, and it made a lot of changes to personnel and how we did things. But we haven't done anything to affect businesses at all. So we've been doing things to try to support them in this time.
I would just say, in other cities are allowing their businesses to open if they so choose, and some are and some aren't, and the cities themselves are not enforcing it, and they're not stopping it. It's a suggestion. It's not. It's something that people have mentioned to me, and I told them I would bring it up. And we can see what the numbers look like on May 27th or the last week of May. But, and remember, over 80% of the problems we're having are coming out of long-term care facilities. They're not, most of them are not from going into Walmart.
But I understand, but again, the point is, we do not have the ability or power to open any businesses that the states deem needs to be closed. There's no way of doing that. We can say we support having them open, and I think that's what these other cities have done, but they don't have the power to open up. It's the governor's order. So, but I understand where you're coming from. So, and we'll see what happened. I mean, right now our local emergency actions kind of in line with what the state is doing. So we'll have to wait and see. Do you have anything else, Suzanne? Thank you.
No, I'm done. Thanks.
Tom.
I don't have anything at this time.
Randy?
I do not have anything as well. I just would like to say that, I really wish that we could get through this, actually bring things back to normal. I think it's very difficult to do that when we're continuing to see some of the numbers that we have been. I mean, I know from companies that I've seen and have worked through that they're even considering questioning June just because that's when we're supposed to be at the height of this. And it breaks my heart. It really does, because I see so many small businesses that have literally closed down and have no income coming in. And it's breaking my heart. But I just, I don't know what we can do, but to try to continue to support each other. So please, everyone, try to be considerate of your neighbors, and hopefully we'll get through this. Thanks.
Okay. Tim?
Thank you, Mayor. We had both watershed meetings last week. I'll just highlight some of the stuff. The Upper Rum, we elected officials for next year. We set the meeting dates for 2021. The 2021 budget ratification and adoption we approved. And we had a presentation from Chuck Schwartz on Bethel stormwater study. And on the Sunrise, we adopted the 2021 budget. We had a carp management update. And then we had Martin and Coon Lake retrofit projects brought before us. We're discussing that. And then lastly is we had a Coon Lake Shore cost share grant request from a couple there. They want to do some lakeshore restoration, and that's all I've got.
Okay, good. Thank you. And I don't have anything other than to say I hope the folks are watching are patient with us, and we'll get this mute button thing figured out. So with that, take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Sweeney, can you take roll call vote, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Mayor Voss.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaisance.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Ronning.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
And that motion passes, and our meeting this evening is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.